Welcome back, everybody, to Integr8 2021. We're now going to hear from Ashutosh Parasnis, who is the convener of Integr8 India 2021 and founder of Newbox Consulting. He's a business strategy and technology management expert with over 35 years of professional experience in the corporate sector, working for and with technology and manufacturing companies. He's helped businesses primarily in manufacturing and IT to create solutions, streamline processes, and to realize new streams of revenue and profit. He's been associated with Stockholm School of Economics, Executive Education, and Symbiosis International University as visiting faculty, and he's an active member of IACC and the Software Exporters Association of Pune. He recently authored and published a mini book, which is entitled Navigating 4.0 and that came out in December 2020. And let's now hand over to him to hear about rethinking innovation in a digital manufacturing world. Ashutosh, over to you.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all of you. I'm Ashutosh Parasnis, and I'm happy to be amongst you. Over the last 2 days, we have heard from reputed speakers, experienced practitioners, multiple facets about Industry 4.0. They have shared use cases, they have talked about technologies, and they have also talked about system integration, they have talked about predictive maintenance kind of applications. At the same time, they have also shared with us what are the benefits of Industry 4.0 as well as some of the opportunities, challenges, and concerns. So while we have listened to all this, the other side is that the Industry 4.0 reports, which you see in the press from some credible organizations, also indicate that very few companies have realized significant benefits from Industry 4.0. I mean, these percentage which are reported are as low as 6% to about 15-20%. So the question is, why is it so? When more than 90% of the manufacturers actually agree to the fact that Industry 4.0 is the future of manufacturing. So how does one develop a roadmap which is effective and which can be successful as every manufacturer would envisage? So it is not just about technologies. You know, while companies are investing or have started investing in technologies to aid their business process automation, manufacturing automation, etc., one of the key differentiators which differentiates these successful companies is that they are also very, very innovative. So the fact of the matter is that digital technologies need innovation as a companion to drive good results. And that is what we are going to talk about today. So let me jump into my presentation. I'll be using a few slides to have a conversation with all of you. So I call my presentation as Rethinking Innovation in a Digital Manufacturing World. Now, 2020 has taught us one thing, and that is the intensity and frequency of unpredictability has actually ramped up quite significantly. We have been hearing about VUCA world, but we have experienced it in a very significant and a very intense fashion last year. So 2021 is going to be really the year of transition, especially for businesses and for the society at large. So talking in the business context, what we are going to see is that the businesses should expect that they are going to be experiencing ever-changing scenarios in the future. What we have seen is a sudden shift in how the customers are now suddenly behaving, whether these are B2B customers or B2C customers. I think their expectations have changed. We have certainly moved onto online purchasing, online transactions much more and in a much faster way than in the past. And similarly, there are other environmental pressures which are also coming out, It's not only the technology advances which are coming and helping businesses transform, but they are also faced with challenges such as sustainability, geopolitics, and these are some of the factors which now one should expect in the future. And what it is going to enable is that innovation is really going to explode. There will be a demand for innovation, because otherwise, how are we going to survive in an ever-changing world? And that's what we are seeing. So hence we are seeing an acceleration of the fourth industrial revolution, or as people would call it, Industry 4.0 or industrial IoT, etc. And also, we are also talking about the sixth wave of innovation. So there is a whole lot of innovation happening out there. And when a business, digital, and innovation comes together, that is what will help us face our future in a resilient fashion, as well as continue to grow. And what this will also mean is that the future of work is going to change when technology takes over, mundane tasks, and it actually executes them far more efficiently than humans. So there is going to be a demand on all of us to actually perform with a higher level of thinking, and that is what is going to drive innovation in the future. So business results are going to be driven not just by technology, but technology with innovation is really one of the key things which we have to realize. Now, talking about an example which illustrates this, let's take a simple healthcare example. But before that, I would like to remind you about a very simple device called a wristwatch. Now, wristwatch in its earlier days was a very analog device, a personal device, which told us the time, later on the day and date. But its function was very, very singular, and it also worked only in what we would call as the time domain. But then, a whole lot of changes started happening in parallel without, being really connected with the wristwatch. A lot of electronics advancements happened. Miniature sensors came into play, and that's where somebody thought, okay, why don't we use these sensors on a wristwatch and make it a wearable as a smartwatch? And that's where, these watches, the smartwatches came into being, and I'm sure many of you are already using it. And at the back of these watches are really these sensors which really track your movement, how many steps you have taken, pulse rate, and so on and so forth. So there was sensing of some parameters, and there was an immediate display of a little bit of analysis and reporting which was happening right on your wrist. So just look at it this way, that the time domain device which was on your wrist now suddenly became a time domain device as well as a healthcare kind of a apparatus, or a wearable as we call it. But then somebody else went further and thought that why don't I make this watch networkable? Why can't it communicate with another device which I already have in my pocket, and that is the mobile device, the cell phone. So came the Bluetooth connectivity within smartwatches, and now what it enabled was that whatever data was being collected by the watch could be transported to the mobile, which in turn was connected to some cloud, and that is where you could store a whole lot of data about yourself if you wish to, where it can be analyzed over like 6 months and 1 year and so on and so forth. Once the data went onto the cloud, and once that analysis was possible, more innovations started happening, where people started wondering that why can't we have some applications which can now drive the next generation of patient care, health care, fitness management of sports people. So you see how this innovation has transformed a simple wristwatch, analog wristwatch, into a device which becomes a very important asset for maybe the future of healthcare, as well as a sports management kind of a sector. Now the question over here is, has innovation happened? And if it has happened, where has it happened? Has it happened in the product? Has it happened in the process? Has it happened in the distribution model? Or has it happened in the entire ecosystem? I think my answer is that the ecosystem itself has evolved with these changes. So once again, the power of digital and innovation when it comes together unleashes a lot of opportunities which can provide you the competitive edge. And that's one example which you can keep to yourself. Now, let me take this simple example into the world of manufacturing. Now, if fitness and performance was being achieved through that smartwatch connected to the cloud and variety of applications, I think it's the same for any business. I think we are all desiring that our businesses are fit and they perform. They continue to perform better and better. And for that, if we draw that analogy and apply the same thing over here, what you're talking of is using sensors, you're using connectivity, you're using analytics, and a whole lot of other applications on the cloud, and then creating a kind of a feedback system where a new ecosystem, a new set of innovations and new possibilities emerge. And that is really where Industry 4.0 is going to provide you benefits. Now, it may sound very simple when I try to draw the analogy with the help of the healthcare example, but we need to remember that the business systems are very complex. There are many people involved, there are many processes, legacy technology systems, and so on and so forth, which need to change, and hence, we find it challenging. So what we will now kind of talk about is what are the benefits which we can look at, and then how do we actually help in drawing the roadmap. So what are some of the benefits? Now, you probably have heard, of course, through various sessions in this conference and elsewhere, that there are certainly a lot of business benefits, and here are some of the business benefits I can talk about through my corporate and consulting experience, where if we use these technologies, if we use these practices thoughtfully, you can certainly find some very real life savings, such as cost savings, which can be as high as 25%. And there will be companies who will probably perform far better, but this was in the context of my clients and what they wanted to do, etc. Some of my clients, one of my clients actually saw a revenue growth of 50% because of improved turnaround time to market, as well as redefining their business models. There were also some benefits on the technology front, where a company which actually valued patents, creating IPR for itself, they boosted their patent productivity by about 4 times when we did some of the things which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. And of course, productivity improvement. I think that is one of the mainstay items which everyone talks about, and you can certainly achieve that. The point here, though, is that whenever we step into the world of Industry 4.0, whenever we talk of technology, I think we have to start thinking of a business case. Unless a business benefit is actually arrived at, unless you are able to articulate it, things are not going to go any further within your organization, because the CXOs, your CEO, the CFO, they're not going to be convinced that by implementing a great technology project, business is going to transform itself. So that is where one has to pay attention. So here are the 5 steps which I have defined, and I would suggest that you look at these 5 steps carefully. If you want to make Industry 4.0 a success in your organization, if you want to leverage technology which can help shape the future of your business, the first and foremost in these 5 steps is, have a complete clarity as to, what is it that your business really wants to do. If you're a CEO, of course, you're the one who's completely involved in articulating it, but you need to be very, very careful and committed to the kind of communication which you want to do, not only to yourself or to your immediate team, but across the organization. And if you are one of the functional managers, functional leaders, you need to understand, where is the company actually wanting to take itself? What is its future? because any thoughts and any projects around Industry 4.0 or digital manufacturing needs to be aligned with what the company wants to do from a business point of view. The second step is, of course, about people, because it is all right to have a strategy in mind, it is all right to have it on the slide, but unless the people are convinced, unless the people are committed, unless the people are enabled about this new philosophy, because Industry 4.0 is something pretty new, and there is already, on one hand, people are excited about working on some technology-led projects, but on the other hand, they are equally apprehensive about if it can take away their jobs. So one has to be very careful to the people angle about it, and having enabled them with the kind of skills which are required, you need to also enable them. I talked about innovation, I talked about technology, and unless both these things come together, you won't find any significant benefit in just automating a manual task. That's going to give you only what we would call as moving from an analog world or a manual world to digitizing the task. What we are really looking for is digitalization or digital transformation. That is what needs to be achieved, and for that, some level of innovation, some level of creativity, some level of experimenting needs to happen in that organization in a very judicious fashion. So a new culture needs to be developed, and so so that is what the third and the fourth step actually talk about: ideating and managing those ideas which are relevant for business, and finally, of course, sustaining that process and realizing true benefits. So if you look at it, the first, second, third step is primarily about people, right? And the fourth and the fifth, the fourth, fifth step is about people and technology. Now, many organizations I have seen, they actually jump from level 1 or the step 1 straight away to step 4 or 5, meaning a strategy and take on a technology project without caring much about that. Is my organization fit enough to perform at that level? Do my people have the capability? Is the mindset of my people well aligned? And then are they made capable to innovate in a culture that is truly beneficial for the company? So these are some of the things which are missing, and that is what is distinguishing those 10% companies which I talked about in the initial slide with the rest of the companies who are kind of starting these initiatives but stuttering later on. So okay, so that wheel is actually a very powerful wheel. I would sort of encourage you to kind of digest that and adapt it. I mean, it's not really a 100% prescription. You may want to tweak it to your taste, to your business requirements, but that navigation wheel, that format, that approach is something which not only other companies, but even in my experience, I have seen have actually yielded some results. So what is it that you talk about in these 5 steps? So I'm not going to read through this every block, but clearly I think what the message over here is: technical and functional skills are not enough. Business acumen, digital savviness, and higher order thinking skills need to be developed as your future capabilities in the organization. So let me kind of give you an example why this works. So in one of my clients' case, my client had called me up and said that, looks like that my business is now sort of stagnating, and what do I need to do? We had a strategic review. We also did some assessments, organizational assessments, and a couple of things came out was that the model with which they were working was not aligned with the changes which were happening out in the market. Clients' expectations were changing, and they were not really absorbed within the organization. Maybe 1 or 2 people knew about it. So that had to be articulated and blended into the operational strategy. The second thing, big thing, which was missing was about leveraging the digital technologies. So we talked about which are the digital technologies which are relevant for their business, and having gone through, that kind of conversation, suddenly a whole lot of options opened up for that company, and the CEO, along with his team, actually did such a marvelous job in terms of transforming their business model. Uh, they took along the people. They implemented RPA, or the robotic process automation processes, or robotic process automation within their processes. They also created a whole lot of visualization tools for their clients, started using data analytics. And with that, what happened was that, a very surprising comment I heard last year from that same company, which started this journey about 4 years back, is that they were one of those few companies who still continued to generate revenue during lockdown phase. And that was purely because of the digital technology which they had embedded within their business models. And they had created some certain service options apart from products. And that kept the cash flow going. Unlike many companies who are like suddenly, putting their holding their heads together and sort of wondering, where do I get my cash from? The key point over here is that by doing this bit ahead in time, this company was much better prepared to recover. It was resilient in the time of crisis as compared to other companies. So being proactive with technologies, being innovative about these technologies, trying to anticipate what are the kind of issues that might impact their business, is going to help a lot to become more and more successful in an unpredictable world. So these five elements in that order, at times you might do them parallelly. You might find you are ready with one of them, but not ready. But if you really look at the skills at the bottom, which I have listed out, these are the kind of new skills which I find are missing. They need to be formally inducted within your organization, so that these are your tomorrow's habits. These are your tomorrow's skills. And if you don't do this in the order, because all these elements kind of need to come together. You can't do combination of one or two and three type of stuff if you do not address them simultaneously and in a collective fashion. What happens is that many of these companies will find those limited success, limited results, which are not very encouraging. And then, they start their journey, they break their journey, they again try to start it, and in the bargain lose momentum. And in tomorrow's world, unless you sustain your momentum, you might lose out on business. Let me give you another quick example before I end. Is that, there was one company where they used to order power metering devices, which went into the data center with every rack. Now, when I reviewed, we were reviewing the overall productivity and operational costs kind of scenarios within that company. And when we came to this particular case, I asked them that what is really the benefit of this particular device which you are procuring with every rack. Now, there are certain obvious benefits in terms of the IT guys have a control on how they manage the power distribution. But they said, no, this particular device is fantastic because it helps us gather a lot of data. We generate weekly reports, and we send it to the managers. So I said, what happens then? They said that, yeah, we are seeing that the graphs are showing that the energy consumption is going higher every month. And we kind of send those alerts to the managers. I kept on asking, so what happens to that? To those alerts? What have you achieved out of that? They said, no, the managers don't really respond in any fashion. They just say that, okay, we need all our service. We can't do anything about it. That is when we activated this, the stage of idea generation and idea management, encouraging the team to really look into, applying some creative techniques to see what is it in that data that is hidden and what is it that they find in the context of that analysis. What was found out was that there were many servers in those racks which were unused but powered up. Now, when they were removed, about 40% of the energy consumption came down and 40% of the rack space also came down. Now, when you see this, so yeah, we got this immediate benefit of energy cost coming down to some extent. But at the same time, what was happening was because the racks were getting full and more new servers were coming, the company was looking at additional real estate, additional UPSs, additional air conditioning to accommodate the future expansion. And when this 40% saving happened, when the space got released, all of a sudden we were staring at an overall saving from the projected ones of about $500,000 per year on a recurring basis. So a simple technology investment which was not connected with any ROI kind of benefit opened up a whole lot of newer thinking, newer opportunities, and good benefits, which actually substantiated the need for such sensing devices. And it also actually proved to everyone that you need to think differently if you want to leverage technology. So investing in people along with technology is very, very important to actually secure overall benefits. So just to kind of quickly do a power recap, you're really looking at a scenario where organizations should aim not just at growth but resilient growth. And resilient growth, as I mentioned right from the beginning, is a function of three parameters. The businesses need to be enabled by digital technologies and at the same time innovation. Innovation is now everywhere. As one of the examples of healthcare and the wristwatch demonstrated, we are innovating at the ecosystem level, not just at the product level. So, with such impacts coming, and if you want to participate in such a world, I think innovation has to become your habit, just like digital is going to be, to drive better and better results. So, with that, I want to leave that thought behind with you, that focus on the holistic scenario, the navigation wheel which I talked about, and remember to rethink innovation as a part of your integrated strategy and not as a second cousin or an isolated strategy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ashutosh. That was excellent. So, if you want to profit from technology, you need to invest in people. And thank you for that roadmap on what to follow for Industry 4.0 and reminding us that Thinking 4.0 and Mindset 4.0 are needed. Ashutosh, it would be great if I could get you to join me on camera. Great. Good to have you here. Ashutosh, I want to ask you, can innovation be taught?
That's a pretty good question. And the quick answer to that is yes. And I can tell
Okay.
that, from my own experience, when I started my career in 1980, now 1980 to 2000, primarily the talk, just like Industry 4.0, is the flavor of the season today. Those days, the talk was all about quality and customer satisfaction and
Hmm.
processes around it. Now, when you talk of processes, these are like, laid out procedures. I worked a lot on ISO 9000 and CMMI and Malcolm Baldrige award criteria and so on and so forth. And in that environment, you want to keep your errors down to the minimum. You don't
Hmm.
experiment a lot. And as a result of it, that mindset doesn't really apply to innovation, which really
Hmm.
started resurfacing in everybody's lives. Innovation was happening, but it became the talk of every organization maybe around 2005 or so in a very serious way. And that is when I think I have spent a lot of time for almost a decade now working with and for teams who really want to become innovative. And in the process, I have discovered that there are methods, there already are some tools which, if they are applied properly, innovation can be learned. And I
Mhm.
would say, I'm not a great innovator, but I think I have innovated to some extent, if I may say, on the management side of innovation rather than on the product side. But I think I would love that everyone starts believing in themselves that they have the capability of innovation, and innovation is not, some special person's job. And I think that is what we need to unleash.
Yeah, so innovation is really an internal battle rather than an external battle. Yeah, we've just got
Yes.
to believe that we can do it.
Yep.
Okay, so we're continuously innovating our products. What more is needed?
Well, like I have said in my presentation, I gave this example of a wristwatch, which is a
Yeah,
product, right?
yeah.
And then how it has transformed itself, not just as a product, but now it has a chance of becoming a part of an ecosystem. Now, just
Mm.
imagine if you are able to visualize your products in that way. Not every product company will necessarily achieve what I have said, but I think it opens up. The key point is it opens up many more opportunities. On one hand, it is many more opportunities to earn newer channels of revenue, and on the other
Mm.
hand, how you can be more efficient, which many experts have talked about, and I really don't want to get into that. But the key point is, are we able to think on those lines? And that's why I have coined these terms as, along with Industry 4.0, along with Digital Transformation 4.0, along with Retail 4.0 and whatnot, we really need to pay more and more attention to the granular level of how can my organization be thinking 4.0, how can it become an innovation 4.0 organization which is in line with today's requirements.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Just to add that Ashutosh has worked along with the team tirelessly to put this program together. So, an extra special thank you to you. And please accept this virtual certificate. And as a token of our appreciation of being part of Integr8, we will be planting a tree on your behalf. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to take a short break now. And when we come back, we are going to look at unchaining possibilities, building a digital chassis for a connected supply chain with Mr. Sagar Bandkar, who's the AVP of Technology at Blue Conch Technologies. So look forward to having you back after the short break. Please fill in the survey form, please fill in the polls, and see you on the other side of the breaks. Thank you.